Other political news, you have Doug Burgum, GOP debate highlights from September 27th. Now, unfortunately, he didn't do the convenient thing and actually make a clip that, here's a clip of 5 of the top highlights. So I went through his news feed, or rather his Twitter feed, and tried to pick the ones that seem the most interesting to folks and the ones that he was most proud of. So this is the first one, and it says, quote, punishing law-abiding gun owners with more gun laws doesn't solve the crime problem. We know it doesn't. We have to get back to looking at mental health and actually enforcing the law in cities where crimes are out of control, unquote. Now, without further ado,
Let's understand is I think that the liberal left seems to be just completely bent on prosecuting law-abiding citizens that are gun owners, because every solution they have to this is take away the Second Amendment rights of Americans, and somehow that's going to solve the problem. But all these cities that we're talking about that you showed the videos of tonight, they have some of the strictest gun laws in the country. So we know that that's not what's working. But what we have to do is get back to the core issues about the family. We have to get back to behavioral health and mental health. We've got to get back to actually enforcing the laws these people talked about. First, we need to know it's under.
Great points. Unfortunately, did not go viral, but yes, he is absolutely on point in terms of accuracy. If I was on the Republican candidate, if I was on that stage, highlight the city of Chicago in nauseam. All the laws that many of the Democratic candidates or politicians are wanting to push on a national federal level, they already exist in the city of Chicago in DuPage County. Or is it Cook County? Potato, or rudimentary football team or rudimentary other sporting ball team. Nevertheless, they'll be good next year, the Bulls or the Bears. I'm sure they will. That's what they always say. But nevertheless, the gun laws, they're already passed in Chicago. The ones that they want on a federal level, Chicago has them. Same with their economic laws, their political law, everything they want is already in Chicago. They've governed Chicago for 90 plus years in terms of democratic governance. So I would highlight that in nauseam and say, hey, we have a real life use case of everything they want to do. It's already being done, and it's not working. It's just hurting honest, law-abiding citizens, which is why so many people move out of Chicago, so many businesses move out of Chicago. But nevertheless, let's see what did the comments section think. And unfortunately for him, it didn't really go viral at all. It got 4,021 views. So I think he had a good message, but it's not really getting out there on social media. Again, he did get on the stage. That's an accomplishment in and of itself. And for the first time in, 18 years, we're talking about North Dakota. So that's something. He's from North Dakota. We just learned something today. But nevertheless, let's look at the comments to see, is it resonating? And again, that's 4,021 views in 48 hours. Let's see. Mr. Pax Canadian Advocate said, quote, note about basically every Western county with better control, it actually doesn't prevent mass shootings. Unquote. Very true. The person got 6 likes. I almost can't believe this is his real political profile. I mean, you have Colors of the Wind, another comment saying, quote, why do so many of those law-abiding citizens oppose background checks? I had a background check as painless. Why are they scared? Unquote. Ill-informed and mentally vacuous tweet, but the person did get 2 likes. I suspect this person is mixing up the definitions. They're thinking of universal background checks, which would be nothing more than a government de facto gun registration. And if you know history, I know public schools don't teach anymore in terms of, you have history scores all-time low, mathematics, science scores all-time low. But history shows us nothing good happens when the government tries to take guns. Look at literally any history story. It ends in the worst, most morally depraved things that humanity has ever done. It always happens when the government disarms citizens. I'd tell you more comments, but that looks like that's it. So this person got 2 comments. Not to brag, but on Twitter, I got 3 comments once at NICTOPPING. But nevertheless, we shall see if his next tweet went a little bit more viral, perhaps. So tweet 2 of 3. Let's see what we got here today. Now,
We've been talking about issues about.
God, I love Twitter. Come on, Elon, multi-trillion-dollar company. You got the videos. I don't know. I feel like it just feels cumbersome compared to other video platforms. The video automatically restarts. They have a lot of work to do, needless to say. But Doug Burgum, he has his little font, or rather he has his text before the video. He says, quote, treat the taxpayer like a customer, unquote. And without further ado, he says...
Because all night long we've been talking about issues about how it's broken in Washington, and I respect all of the people on the stage here for their 100+ years of public service. Thank you. But the reason why we're not talking about education or healthcare or safety being a problem in North Dakota is because we have a business leader. I've got more experience as a business leader than I think this whole group combined. I know I've created more jobs than everybody else on stage, thousands of high-paying jobs that have real meaning. So as a business leader, you come in and you treat the taxpayer like a customer, because all night long we've been talking about issues about how it's broken.
Again, Elon, what's the benefit of the video automatically resetting is beyond me. But nevertheless, that's a great message. And again, I think he needs to get the message out there more effectively, but not enough people know he's an entrepreneur. He actually created jobs, which most politicians can't. I was trying to think. Most of them create nothing but more national debt. Now, that video did get more, actually twice as many views as the previous subsequent video we talked about. This got 11,700 views within 48 hours. Now, some of the top responses, Mr. Doug Butcher says, quote, agree, unquote. That person got 1 like. Jody Vetter said, quote, must be doing something right. Dana threatened to cut your mic while they let everyone else sling insults and interrupt, unquote. And she got 4 likes. Mr. Dan Stillwell gave a comment. He said, quote, you should have been asked more questions, unquote. And this person got 23 likes. B for the USA says, quote, I think you were the winner tonight, unquote, getting 9 likes. Michelle Johnson saying, quote, no, we are your boss, we pay your salary, unquote, 5 likes. Mr. Common Sense Politics says, quote, they rigged the debate against you, unquote, getting 6 likes. Mr. David Lee Rothschild said, quote, you did a great job tonight, thank you, unquote, getting 9 likes. And these are getting between 50 and 200 views. Let's see, Steve Hartel said, quote, I like what you keep saying, I hope you find ways to get your policies out, unquote. And this person got 10 likes at 158 views. So it looks like another one said, Sharon Panos said, quote, it's terrible how they didn't ask you enough questions and how they threatened to cut your mic. We would like to hear everyone, unquote. The person got 11 likes out of 137 views. So, I mean, incredibly, let's see here. I guess there's one meme that says, great guy, but I can't unsee the Sam the Eagle, unquote. And that's, I guess it's the Muppet. And that person got 1 like. Yeah, so it looks overwhelmingly positive responses, but the issue is you need quantity in terms of, getting the votes out. So a lot of people are bringing up the fact that they cut his mic up. They don't feel like he got enough questions asked for him or he got enough time. And I think partially is because he's lower in the polls than everyone else. And that's, you kind of see this with politics. The people who are highest in the polls get the most questions asked. And yeah, so one of those things, I mean, overwhelming support. So that one was pretty good. So I was going to say 1 out of 2 in terms of his tweets doing good. Well, what will the deal breaker be for tweet 3 of 3? Pulled up right now. And this one, his text before, and again, it looks like went down a little bit in terms of views. Previous one got 11,000 views. This got 9,166 total views on the Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it these days. And his text before the video is, quote, Joe Biden's energy policies are the real existential threat to America's future, unquote. And without further ado,
of course, we're going to give Ukraine to Russia, and then we're going to give Taiwan to China, and think that's a foreign policy. That will make our nation less successful, make us more poor. And at the core of all that is energy policy, because China imports 10 million barrels of oil a day. They're the largest importer in the world, and we've had 4 cabinet members from the Biden administration there this summer, and none of them talked about U.S. energy. The first one to go to each of those countries was Kerry to talk about the folly of the climate policy, which is making the world less stable. It's empowering dictators. It's not about climate change that we need worried about. It's about the Biden climate policies that are actually the existential threat to America's future.
Thank you.
Can I speak about
Governor Haley, Mexico's president called.
Now, it's fascinating how many people forgot the last election cycle where Biden did probably say he was going to shut down the oil industry and go after them like never before. Americans have a very short-term memory. So I think what he said was right. I mean, again, everyone's talking about energy related to the consumer. I mean, most people, they really don't care about when you talk about dollars per barrel rather. Just ask people, look at the gas pump when you're filling up your vehicle. When was the last time it was $1.95? That's when we were energy independent. Is your family hurt paying $3, $4, $5 a gallon of gas these days? I mean, again, bring it back to the consumer, bring it back to the voter, and say how it's affecting their weekly paycheck, how it's affecting their weekly budget. I think that would have been a much more prudent way of him of framing this. It's almost as if he made a good point, but you need to finish it out, saying, what he said is good, and then say, just add on, like, wouldn't you love to get, gas for $1.50, $1.50 a gallon? Wouldn't that help your family's weekly budget? Do you remember those days? Food was actually cheaper because you use diesel trucks basically pretty much for every logistical company to get the food and the products everywhere. There are many benefits to being energy independent. And I think they need to highlight the ripple effect, highlight the ripples that most affect the consumer, where they really feel it in their wallet. Now, that's my 3 cents. Used to be 2 cents, but 40-year hyperinflation got to be 3. Should be 4 cents, but I'm a generous man. Though, still free to click the subscribe button. Now, going over to the comments to see what are people thinking. Now, Mr. Adad, great profile name. Now, this person says, quote, great job at both debates. You have great ideas and experience. I don't think you are nearly enough time when they throw you in a question. It's like they're just throwing you a bone to placate your appearance. Keep trucking. Those actually listening to what you say like it, unquote. Now, this person got 2 likes out of 49 views. Someone right under him, more pejoratively, Mr. Geppetto San Martin, said, quote, this doesn't mean anything, unquote. This person got 1 like. Don't panic. Don't tell me how to live my life. Nevertheless, this person's name is Don't Panic. They said, quote, am I crazy? I thought you should be out as an independent, but I think you won this debate considering your time. Excellent job, unquote. And the person got 4 likes. So it looks like Mr. Brew Pub Politics said, quote, you got my attention, unquote. Person getting 3 likes. The Hall said, quote, the debate was a disaster, but you stood out as the sane one up there, unquote. Person getting 2 likes as well. I was going to say I'm looking, and let's see here. It looks like overwhelmingly positive feedback in terms of this tweet. But again, it's also one of those issues where there's only, what is this? There's only 17 comments on it. And again, you do need that massive volume of prospective voters to be tuning in. And it'll be interesting to see, does this change your opinion of Doug? I mean, I think many people who are tuning in to his social media are saying they really appreciate what he stands for, the things he's saying. But the issue is, I believe he's still in last place or darn near in terms of polls for the preliminary to see who would become the Republican nominee. And I think a lot of people just aren't going to support him because he doesn't have the initial base of supporters, perhaps. So it'll be interesting to see. Let me know in the comments. Do you think, did this increase your perception of Doug? Are you more likely to vote for him? A little bit less likely? Or is your perception of Doug kind of about the same? He kind of middle of the road? Or it'll be interesting to see how this helps or perhaps even hinders him in the upcoming polls throughout the next couple of weeks. But I would love to hear what you have to say, but I would say, me, time shall tell. Thank you everyone again for taking the time to tune in today. I know it's ambitious, but we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of September, or rather October, because my ADHD, the months go way too quick these days. So if you can click that button, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, if you take the time to like and comment, I really appreciate the feedback, even if it's critical, as we try to make the show better and better together. And also, lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.